This is ContraZoom.
Where we go back and forth about film.
I'm Dakota Arsenault.
And I'm Matthew Simpson.
The 44th edition of the Vancouver International Film Festival just concluded, and we are here today to talk about some of our favorite films that played. Over at ContraZoomPod.com, we posted reviews of films seen, including Mirrors Number 3, A Welcome Distraction, and Blue Moon, two of those films which we'll be talking about today. Joining Matthew and I today is Darren Zakis, the lead reviewer over at Movie Scene Canada, who was last heard on episode 313, 2025 Toronto International Film Festival, where we wrapped up the films we saw at TIFF. Welcome back to the show, Darren. How are you today?
I'm good. It's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for your third time, not your
Third time,
second
yes.
time. Yes. I swear I can count now.
Good. You passed kindergarten.
Just barely. Learning my shapes this week.
Awesome. I love it.
You had quite the busy VIF. I'd love to know what your thoughts were on the overall festival, the selection of films that were playing, all that sort of good stuff.
Well, it's funny. You say I had a busy VIF, but it didn't feel busy. Like, it's no TIFF. I was kind of seeing, one movie a day midweek, if that, and then maybe two a day on the weekend. But it was honestly a really good VIF in terms of the selection of films that we had. We had lots of good foreign films, some of the bigger Hollywood films that were playing the festival circuits, and some that hadn't played any at many of the other big ones. I will say I didn't have luck liking most of the films I saw, but hey, that's part of the festival experience, so can't complain.
Yeah, that is true. It always can be sometimes a little bit of a crapshoot where you don't know what's going to be your cup of tea or not, because you're seeing stuff that, for the most part, other people have not seen yet. So you're really just going on your gut instincts.
Exactly. Going, oh, this won something at Cannes. This has to be good. And then going, oh, that was not for me.
Very true. Very true. Matthew, you've been covering VIF and attending it for such a long time. Correct me if I'm wrong. This year, it kind of felt like it was a bit of a big deal. Like, they got a lot of big names from different festivals, rivaling TIFF for some of the more exclusive stuff. Do you feel like it was maybe a bit of a bigger deal this year? Did they just get lucky, or what's your sort of vibe of the festival?
Well, I say this is someone who, due to some personal obligations, didn't actually have as busy of if as either of you for sure, or even me in most years. But it did feel like there were more people on hand. Like Mark Maron was here, lots of directors were here. And certainly, like, usually it's like, and this is maybe I'm wrong about this, but my impression is always of the guys we know and ladies we know and everyone else we know that goes to TIFF. There's always like a lot of people saying, "Well, I don't need to see X because it was at TIFF." And this year, it really felt like none of those people were saying that as much. Like, there was very much like, "I need to see this." Like, I didn't see it. It wasn't at VIF or wasn't at TIFF. So it felt like there was more unique titles. And as someone who focused pretty primarily on the uh Canadian titles, I felt like there was a much stronger selection this year. Was my sort of happy surprise. Like, all of the Canadian ones that I watched this year, to be fair, so far, because I still have, I think, two to watch at home, have been really good. So yeah, it felt I had a little more FOMO than I would have in other years, I think, having missed so much of it.
Yeah, that's very true. We're even going to be talking about one of those films today that didn't play at TIFF. That was sort of a pretty big get for VIF to get, that I will not spoil quite yet. But the way this episode will work is very similar to the TIFF wrap-up episode, if people listen to that. We each have two films that we saw that we really liked that we want to talk about, and some of them multiple of us have seen, and then some of them only some of us have seen. So yeah, let's start with you, Darren, as our guest of honor. What's the first movie that you're going to be talking about today?
First one I'm going to talk about today is Richard Linklater's Blue Moon. It was one of the ones I was playing both TIFF and VIF, and I was going, oh, which one do I see the first morning of TIFF? Do I do the Linklater doubleheader? Do I see Sentimental Value? And I opted going for Sentimental Value, which I don't regret at all. But when I sat down on day 2 of VIF to watch Blue Moon and walking out of that theater, I was like, damn, I wish I saw this a few weeks ago, because I absolutely loved this movie. It is your Linklater talking film, all in one location. Ethan Hawke is pretty much monologuing the entire film. We're getting into heated discussions with the few co-stars he has as Broadway lyricist Lorenz Hart, who is part of Hart and Rogers. Rogers being Richard Rogers, who went on to do Oklahoma, The Sound of Music with Oscar Hammerstein II. So big names in the Broadway world. And Hart is basically at Sardi's on the opening night of Oklahoma, seeing that his career and professional life is basically ending in front of his eyes as he sees the world of Broadway react to Oklahoma and it becoming the runaway hit that it was that still sees it being played today in productions around the world. Hawke is honestly, it's probably one of his best performances. This kind of quick paced, witty delivery of the script that just glides across his tongue and keeps the audience enthralled from start to finish, but also providing this kind of deep, reflective, soul searching look as he's trying to grasp onto the last bit of notoriety he has as he watches everyone in the bar basically forget about him. It's truly a heartbreaking performance and just so incredible. I keep seeing Hawke's name in Oscar predictions for the year, and I really hope that that comes true because it'd be such a great nomination. But then your supporting cast, you've got Andrew Scott as Richard Rogers, who is just great. You see him trying to, you know, bask in the glory of his big night, be respectful for his longtime friend and collaborator who kind of helped him get to this point with all the songs that they'd done together in the musicals, but also not wanting to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Give in to his own vices and his self-indulgenceness that as he tries to pull him down on his big night. Bobby Cannavale as the bartender is just absolute perfect casting. You know, the big guy behind the bar. You kind of look at Bobby and you go, okay, you don't have this kind of really sophisticated look to you, but he's got that kind of deep insight that you often associate with bartenders in films. And he just has some wonderful moments with Hawke. And then Margaret Qualley as the young kind of ingenue of the film who's kind of developed this pen pal relationship with Hart's is absolutely charming. And there's also quite an interesting relationship that plays out there that deepens the full examination of Hart's life before it ends a few months later. And it's just a beautiful film.
Yeah, this is a movie that I really went for as well. I feel like I'll play devil's advocate ever so slightly just for some of the things that like didn't work for me, but like this was still a film that I really loved. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I wrote about this movie. I'll link to that in the show notes. So I did really enjoy that. So I'm just more saying these things of like countering a little bit of things that didn't quite work for me. Ethan Hawke, you're right, is absolutely sublime. It is easily one of his best performances. He's fantastic. He's so good at these, it just sort of feels like he's playing a version of himself because if you ever watch him in interviews, that's his personality. He's just talk. And so like this suited him perfectly for that. I will say once the other characters start getting introduced, specifically the Rogers part played by Andrew Scott and the is her name Elizabeth? Yes. By Margaret Qualley, played by Margaret Qualley. I feel like the movie sort of loses its steam a little bit. There's still interesting moments, but it loses its forward momentum that first chunk of the movie had, I'll say. And then I also sort of feel like Margaret Qualley was maybe miscast. And I say that as someone who adores Margaret Qualley. But she is not a 20-year-old, fresh-faced, naive college student. Like, I think we all know now she's not that young. And she's not that, like, naive and innocent. She's good at playing these more complex parts. And so I think you might have needed someone with a bit more of an ingenue feel to them than she currently has. Not to say that she gives a bad performance, just maybe not quite suited for this role. And in the way that Lorenz Hart talks about her, and is sort of my issue with her casting. But other than that, I agree with basically everything you said, Darren. This is a fantastic film. If you love Linklater's hangout films, his romantic side of him, you're absolutely gonna love this.
I disagree about Margaret Qualley. Actually, I thought she was really good. I thought she does still have that energy, even though she's 30 in real life. And I'm also pretty forgiving of that kind of thing because we often cast very young women against very old men, and often cast very old men to be younger versions of themselves. And so I'm sort of okay to just let that slide, basically. But I literally just finished watching this film. I watched it this morning in preparation for this show, and let me tell you, I loved it. And I haven't had a chance to sit down and actually think about it and rate it, but it's on the long list for my favorite films of the year. I love a good Linklater hangout film. I love the way I like to describe it is films that feel like plays, like very talky, very like single location or limited location. Just like character dramas, and Linklater is very good at those. And Ethan Hawke is maybe one of our most versatile performers working today, I would say now. And certainly, he's become this interesting like authority on art and artistic expression in a way that I think really serves this film. So yeah, I love this film a lot.
Yeah, it's like it's so delightful. It's reminiscent of some of his other films, but like it's still sort of unique in Linklater's own way. That I do love that. I don't know if Ethan Hawke is gonna get an Oscar nomination, but like that would definitely be one of the most pleasant surprises if he does for me.
Yeah, and I also think that the supporting cast, like I think that Andrew Scott, so Ethan Hawke is fantastic. I don't think I can really add anything to the conversation there, um, just because he's so good at mixing this. Like at this point in his life, Hart is a man who's like desperately hanging on, but like not hanging on, but like hanging by a thread. Um, you know, his he sort of sees his glory days in his rear view. He sort of feels like he might be about to lose to his personal demons, and I think Hawke is really good at portraying that. And I think Andrew Scott is similarly very good as the opposite of as a man who like has great reverence for his great friend, but also like kind of annoyed and sort of finished with him because he's so self-destructive. And I think watching Scott like ping pong between those 2 points of view was was marvelous. So yeah, I think those two main performances in particular are worthy of praise, and I'm pretty sure that Andrew Scott won the Silver Lion at Berlin for it. I think that's right.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be surprised if he had some supporting actor considerations this award season too.
Someone that I don't think is going to get any sort of mention in awards that I really enjoyed the performance of was someone named Patrick Kennedy, who I'm not familiar with, playing E.B. White in this film. When he gets introduced, just a very delightful, small little morsel of a character that I love.
Yeah, and honestly, Patrick Kennedy. I was going to bring him up too, because he's one of those guys who just shows up in stuff and is reliably good, like a solid character actor. So like, for example, if you've watched, he was in the last Star Wars movie, but on TV he was in Department Q recently in a main role, and I kind of hope he breaks big from that. He was also in The Queen's Gambit a few years ago, and he was excellent in that. He's a really solid English character actor, and I hope that this year in particular gets him some more recognition and he gets some bigger parts.
Yeah, he's definitely one of that guys over in England. So if you watch British stuff, you would recognize. Like I look through his IMDb, I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen a whole bunch of things he's in, but I don't recognize him. So like now that like I am more aware of who he is, I think I'll probably notice him more too.
Yeah, I do happen to watch a lot of British stuff, so I did definitely. He is one of my like that guys.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, you should seek out, because Department Q is such a great. It's like one of the best versions of like handsome rogue helps the police shows in a long time. And also, The Queen's Gambit is one of the best book to screen adaptations I can remember. So, you should definitely watch both of those things.
Yeah, very true. Darren, do you have anything else you want to add about Blue Moon?
Not really. No, I think we've covered it all. Apart from that, go watch it if you haven't seen it.
Maybe we can
Now,
also just point out that Bobby Cannavale is in this, and he's always great.
yes.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a very Bobby Cannavale part for sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah, like
that's
you know what
great.
you're getting. Yeah.
That's like, if you like that sort of thing, then I got goodness for you. It's a great version of that.
I will say, Linklater has 2 movies out this year, and they're both sort of similar-ish in that they're both kind of hangout movies in his own spin on them. I did prefer the other one, Nouvelle Vague, which is about the making of Breathless, the Jean-Luc Godard film. But this is a very close competitor to it as being equally great. I don't think either of you have seen Nouvelle Vague, have you?
I've seen Nouvelle. I like Blue Moon better.
Oh, interesting.
But
Okay.
I think that's just me being a Broadway musical fan. This was way up my wheelhouse. All the small references in the film, just being at Sardi's, all the character portraits on the wall of Broadway legends, and lots of the dialogue referencing specific plays and lyrics and stuff. But Nouvelle is delightful as well, and they're both not just hangout films, but they're both kind of odes to these artists.
Yeah.
Which is, it's just a unique double header for them to be coming out in a couple of weeks within each other too in the same year. It's just wild.
Yeah. I love Richard Linklater.
It's hard to fault a guy for being busy, but
no.
He's one of those guys that, like, I don't always like his stuff, but when I like it, I tend to love it. So, like, I know I'm in the voice of the minority in terms of when it comes to, like, Boyhood, but, like, I could watch Everybody Wants Some on a loop, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, then let's move on to your first film you want to talk about there, Matthew.
Sure. I'm going to highlight a Canadian film directed by Zacharias Canuck. It's an Inuit film called Wrong Husband. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name in Inuktitut out of respect because I'll butcher it. But it's a film shot deep in the north of Nunavut with a cast of mostly non-professional actors about a pair of young lovers who are separated. The young woman is, after her father dies, the young woman is taken to a rival camp. This is set in about the year 2000 BC, like it's very, very period set, but the landscape is very timeless. But she's taken to a rival camp, and the rest of the film is the young man trying to get back to her. It's a pretty classic story, pretty straightforward story, but it's also kind of feels like one of the more important films I've seen this year in terms of like Canadian representation and Inuit representation. And it's just so like wonderfully and starkly realized. There's several like sort of supernatural elements that are going on in the background of the story, including a troll that steals children, and there's a fantastic duel on a dreamscape between 2 rival shamans that is really impressive to behold, given the sort of, it sounds like a dig, but like obvious budgetary limitations. And basically all of the actors are 100% in. You can tell it's very naturalistic in the best way possible, and I really loved it. I loved it from start to finish. It feels like something so unique and uniquely Canadian, and I'm super glad that it exists. I hope that Zacharias Canuck is probably most famous for his earlier film, the name of which I always mispronounce, but I'm going to try to pronounce. It's Anatuharat, I believe, The Fast Runner.
That's an Arjuat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an Arjuat. There you go. And this feels like it'll stand beside that as like an important Canadian, and certainly an important like Northern Canadian film. And I fully expect it to be like a player at the CSAs next year.
Yeah, I have not seen it, so I don't really have much to add other than the fact that Jeff Ballmer wrote a terrific review of this film and had the opportunity to interview Canuck, which was our last episode. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. I'll link to that in the show notes, where he had a fascinating conversation talking about his sort of his inspiration and the trajectory of his career, and this being his like biggest film that he's made in terms of scale. So lots of interesting stuff that they got to talk about. So yeah, I don't have anything to add about this movie because I have not seen it. What about you, Darren? Have you seen it?
I have not seen it, so nothing to add either.
Oh man, you guys got to see this movie. Like, it is so
Yes.
interesting and unique and different, and like, I'm sure there's going to be some cohort of people who are like, looks too cheap or whatever, or, but it's so like universal. Like, the story is so universal. It could be any two pair of lovers that you want in any sort of indigenous um, society, but also very specifically Inuit society. Um, and it's very specifically Canadian, despite it's a very fine line to walk to be like so broad and so specific at the same time. And I really loved that about it. And then also, not for nothing, it kind of feels like cheating getting to point cameras at such a beautiful landscape, like stark, but beautiful. And like, you look at these like vast um, sort of rocky plains of the north, and it's easy to believe that there was just a camera there 2,000 years ago. Like, it doesn't. It's just exactly what you would imagine it looks like at any given time. It's kind of incredible, to be honest.
Nice. Yeah. Everything I've heard about this sounds absolutely incredible and just a very beautiful, artful film using a unique form of storytelling that the Inuit people have, and Kunuk sharing their stories with us.
Yeah, and I think I buried the lead a little bit too. It's entirely in Inuktitut. Like, it's like entirely in the Inuit language. Not There's no English,
Hmm.
so it feels almost like again, it's very very specific, and but again, kind of a marvel that it even exists. I'm so happy that I saw it.
Yeah, fair. Um, well, I don't have anything else to add about that movie. Do you have anything left you want to talk about there, Matthew?
No, I think I covered pretty much all of it. I did write a review of it if you want to look that up. It's on exclaim.ca. I'm sure you can Google that if you'd like to, listeners.
Even easier, it'll be linked to in the show notes.
Wonderful.
All right, well, I'll talk about the first movie I want to talk about, which is one called Death Stalker, which is I realized the IMDb description does not have an actual description. It just has what it's a remake from a 1983 film. But those people who are familiar with Stephen Kazansky will probably already be aware of this. He is a cult Canadian film director, but basically, I'll read the letterbox description. The warrior Deathstalker is tasked by an old witch lady to obtain and unite the three powers of creation: a chalice, an amulet, and a sword, lest the evil magician Munkar get them and use them for nefarious purposes. This is, like I said, based on a 1983 film produced by Roger Corman, and they ended up making like 5 or 6 sequels. It came on the heels of Conan the Barbarian as this sort of like swords and sorcerers genre of film, and it's just a gloriously good time. So I mentioned Stephen Kazansky off the top there. He's most known for doing Psycho Gorman and The Void. So he's a guy who started out his career doing practical effects, and he has basically transitioned into being a director and finding ways to do the craziest practical effects on a budget. He basically does everything himself in his workshop, making these fantastic creature suits and special effects and all this sort of stuff, and then sort of crafts movies around them. And so I liken Deathstalker to basically like if back in the day, the Monty Python guys were tasked with making their version of Lord of the Rings, and they try to make it seriously, except for they keep remembering that they're Monty Python, and so there's these like random visual gags and asides and snarky humor and things like that. But then they're like, no, we have to stay true to the source, and you get this like really ridiculous exposition. I talked to someone else that watched this. Trying to follow along with the lore of this movie is just a fool's errand because this is very much like a sort of like sci-fi fantasy in the most ridiculous kind of way, and they're throwing out names and powers and abilities and kingdoms and all this sort of stuff here, and you just kind of have to nod your head and go, uh-huh, okay, yeah. It's all sort of ridiculous, but basically the main plot is you've got this guy, this warrior who's known as Deathstalker, who scavenges battlefields after battles and sees a guy and pulls an amulet off him, not realizing that he can't get rid of this amulet now, because people are now trying to kill him, but he can't get rid of it because it magically will always be returned to him until he dies. So he has to break this curse, basically. And that's basically the point of the movie, is him trying to figure out how to break this curse and sort of teaming up with different people and finding the right scrolls and blah, blah, blah. It's just a fun time with fun special effects. It's cheesy, it's ridiculous, it's over the top, but it's a good time. So yeah, that's really what I have to say about Deathstalker. And if you like that sort of movies, if you've seen Psycho Gorman, you'll probably enjoy this.
I mean, I haven't seen this movie, but based on your description, it sounds like one that I definitely need to see. This sounds right up my
Mm-hmm.
alley. Like, I love sort of swords and sandals, fantasy epics, and it sounds ridiculous in the best way possible. How did I know
Yeah.
this even exists? And also, Daniel Bernhardt is the main guy. Like, that's great. I love that guy.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with who he is. Like I'm looking at it, looks like he's mostly sort of like a stunt performer type of guy.
So you're definitely familiar with who he is because he's the guy that like John Wick and Atomic Blonde kill all the time.
Yeah.
Like he's part of that whole crew, and
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't often. He's had a couple of more meaty acting roles in the past couple of years. But yeah, he shows up and just kicks ass or gets his ass kicked. And he's got a really great screen presence, and I think that like this kind of movie might be a great entry point as like for more of a leading role for him. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I'll say his performance, and I do not mean this in a derogatory way, even though it's going to come out this way. It's sort of like Kevin Sorbo as Hercules, like that sort of like chewing the scenery, self-awareness level. Obviously, that has very negative connotations these days because Kevin Sorbo is an absolute asshat. But like that sort of thing where there's he'll come across like a dead body and he just look down and be like, ew, that's gross. And just like completely breaks the fourth wall in that sense where it's so funny. And then he goes right back to being like the most badass skilled warrior of all time sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that works for me though. Like that level
Yeah.
of that sort of like cheeseball level really
Yeah.
works for me. So I'm kind of excited to see this now.
And Patton Oswalt voices a character as well. So, you get Patton Oswalt.
Amazing. Sign me
Into
up.
it. Totally into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is gonna be it's a very small Canadian film. I think it's gonna be like getting a physical release from Shout, so it's gonna be available. Who knows? It'll probably be on Crave or something. But yeah, if you're into ridiculous movies like this with gory, crazy special effects, this is definitely one you should check out.
It
But yeah,
looks like it's playing in limited way anyway in the US by Shout Studios as well. So like if you're a listener from America, you have a chance to see this in cinemas, it looks like.
yes. All right, Darren, what's the second movie you want to talk about today?
So the second movie I want to talk about is probably the biggest get that VIFF got this year, but we got not only the Canadian premiere, but we got the international premiere of Bradley Cooper's latest film, Is This Thing On? 2 days after it world premiered at New York Film Festival. It was a very last minute announcement for VIFF, and one I kind of didn't believe when I saw. I was like, how did we get this movie? Like, this is playing nowhere else, but we got it. It was the very last film on the very last day, but I pulled myself to the Playhouse going, nope, I'm not missing this one, despite how tired and exhausted I was. And this is the latest film from Bradley Cooper, and it's a very different film from what he's directed previously with A Star is Born and Maestro, which are very big, grand productions where he's, in A Star is Born shooting at Coachella, or in Maestro, he's conducting orchestras for 7 minutes in a single take and kind of going all out. This one is a far more intimate character drama. again, still playing with the relationship dramas that he's done in his previous two films, but this feels like Bradley Cooper going from his blockbuster level film for an Oscar drama to a bit more of a Noah Baumbach marriage story, as he tells the story of this couple who are separating, played by Will Arnett and Laura Dern, and then the husband who kind of has this moment of kind of second guessing what he's done with his life and ends up becoming a stand-up comedian, which is no stretch for Will Arnett to do because he's a great comedian. And also it vaguely mirrors his own life and his own divorce from Amy Poehler, yet the film is based on the life of a British comedian. So take that for what it is. It's like, this is Will Arnett's life, but it's actually not based on his life. And it's just this beautiful little film. It's incredibly funny. Will Arnett has never been better. Laura Dern is Laura Dern, so she's just fantastic. And it's this sweet little film where you have these two characters who are still very much care for each other, but they're at this point in their life where they're not wanting to be together like that anymore, and they're trying to navigate this for themselves, for their family, as they both kind of go back to these passions that they either had before they started their family or have discovered since, and trying to discover themselves as individuals again. And it's just this wonderful little film and an absolute crowd pleaser, and I'm so happy we got it.
Yeah, this is one that the one I was mentioning off the top there is the big get for VIFF. I believe it was a late addition to the festival, was it not?
Like the week of it starting, I think it was very last minute.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy. I didn't get the chance to see it, and I really do want to see it because I'm very curious. I'm quite high on A Star Is Born, and I'm quite mixed on Maestro, so I don't quite know where I sit on Bradley Cooper as a director. And it's sort of interesting that this is now the first movie that he's not in, because he does not have a part in this, does he?
He does, but is. It's a small role. He's one of their friends.
Oh, okay.
So he'll like pop up for a few minutes, then disappear for like 20 minutes, and pop up again. And he kind of comes on and does the Bradley Cooper comedy routine, which I kind of love. We haven't seen that from him in a while.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that definitely intrigues me for sure. And like Will Arnett doing a more, like, it still seems like it's comedic based, but still slightly more serious. I'm curious about that. How does he sort of handle the more dramatic aspects?
It's funny enough, like, it's a comedy film, but he's not meant to be a good comedian. So when he's generating the laughs, it's not because he's, being the great stand-up comedian that we all know he can be. It's kind of because he's more fumbling his way through life. And he really digs into this kind of more dramatic aspect of the role, but I think it's more because, as I was saying, it mirrors his real life, so he's able to find an honesty in his performance that he just naturally has. So it's very lived in that sense, which really works.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I am very curious and interested about this. I forget, is this a Netflix film?
It is Searchlight or 20th Century. It's one of those
Searchlight Pictures.
Searchlight, yeah.
It'll be released in December, I believe.
Limited December 19th, I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see this movie either because I was out of town for that part of the festival. But I was kind of upset because I really would like to have seen it because I like everyone involved. And this is going to sound really negative, and I don't mean it to be, but it feels like Bradley Cooper not trying so hard, if you know what I mean. Like, for better or for worse, like, I think A Star Is Born is a pretty good movie. I think Maestro is a pretty good movie, but like there is that sort of I mean, I hate to frame it this way, but it's how I think a lot of people feel the same, in that like they feel like he's like, I want an Oscar. I want to make movies that are going to get me an Oscar, And it feels like maybe he took the time to make something a little more personal and grounded this time without worrying about the rest of that stuff. And that alone intrigues me because I think he's actually a fairly like a good director. And makes me, knowing that it's a little more low key and a little more personal, makes me very interested in seeing it. I've been interested in seeing it since I first heard about it, and I'm glad that it turned out well.
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest qualms with Bradley Cooper as a filmmaker has always been his scripts. I think have suffered a little bit. I think his actual direction is fantastic. Like Maestro, I thought was a beautifully looking film.
Mm-hmm.
I just had huge issues with the screenplay more than anything. So that's the sort of thing that I'm most curious about.
I think that's fair. I think that was sort of my problem with A Star Is Born as well. In that, like, I don't really like. I liked like the first half of that movie, and then I sort of felt like it fell apart in the back half. But it gave us The Shallow, so it's a wash.
All is forgiven. Yeah.
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 Awesome. Do you have anything else you want to add there about is this thing on there, Darren?
Not really. No, I kind of want to not say too much about it because it's still not out for 2 months. So I kind of want to let people discover this one over the next few months as it plays festivals and hits theaters. But it's definitely one that you can take anyone to, barring young children. 'Cause it's just not going to be something that intrigues them. But it's something
They'd
that you
probably
can
be
take
bored,
your
yeah.
parents to, your partner to. It's a crowd pleaser and just very entertaining for anyone to watch.
Nice. Okay, Matthew, what is your second film you want to talk about?
So my second film is also Canadian. It's called Blue Heron. I hope you guys have both seen it.
I have, yeah.
Apologies. I meant to watch it last night, but I was out and then I just decided to stay out for Black Phone 2. But I have the link in my inbox, so it's happening at some point this week.
Yeah, so this is a wonderful, very understated film from director Sophie Romvari. I think it's her narrative feature debut, if memory serves.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, yeah.
She's done a lot of like shorts and documentaries and stuff like that, but this is her first like narrative film. And it's loosely based on her own experiences, her own childhood. And the first half of the film is her. She's the young girl who's the youngest member or the middle member of a Hungarian family that has immigrated to Vancouver Island in the 90s. And the main character is Sasha, this young girl. And she's the whole first half of the movie is from Sasha's point of view. So you only get like glimpses of their family life, of the struggle that her parents are going through. But in particular, it's about her relationship with her older brother, who has a number of behavioral issues that the parents are just not, I don't know, equipped to deal with or not prepared to deal with, but he has these issues that he keeps disappearing and doing dangerous things. And in the back half of the film, it shifts to a more present day context where Sasha is now an adult and she is making a documentary about her trying to rediscover memories of her older brother who has since passed. I don't want to say too much more about it because I think it's a really powerful film and very personal film, and one that, if it's the kind of thing you can vibe with, will get directly into your emotions and pull them out and show them to you. It's very melancholy, very sad, but also and heartbreaking. But it's also astounding. It's a wonderful film to watch. It's wonderful to watch someone, I've always thought, processing something through their art, and this is exactly that. And it's very, because the first half of the film is shot from this young girl's point of view, it's very like cinema verite. It's lots of like brief glimpses of people, and you're never really sure how long of a time period that first half of it is because it's all clips and minor scenes. And I mean, I so much want everyone to see this movie, but also don't want to talk about it. if that makes
Yeah.
sense. I don't know if you can confirm what I'm saying here, Dakota, but like, it's such a beautiful personal little film, and I kind of can't believe it even exists in the form that it exists in. Uh,
It-
it's it's wonderful, and you should see it. That's the end of my rambling for right now. I'm curious to see what you're going to say about it, and maybe I'll have some more to say after that.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of like not wanting to talk too much about it. And I think it's sort of twofold. One, because there, especially in the second half, there's a very interesting narrative device function that is used that I think is a good surprise.
Yeah.
And two, it's kind of hard to also, really go in depth in this movie because otherwise you're just sort of reciting plot because this movie very much is based on the feelings of what this young girl is seeing and experiencing, and that's kind of hard to put into words. It's something that like you just have to sort of watch her witness
Yeah, the first
and
half
go
is
through.
kind of vibesy.
Yeah.
It's kind of a vibe movie, and then it shifts into something a little more structured in the back half, but in a way that is not jarring, in a way that makes
No,
perfect sense. Um, in terms of
I
how
would.
Romvari is like interacting with her own memory in this film, it's stunning.
Yeah, and I would almost say that for me watching the first half, I was a bit confused at times because you're not totally sure what you're witnessing or without going into too much detail, what the point of it is that you're being told these sort of not they're not vignettes, but it's sort of like, and this is a memory from this time, and this is a memory from this time, and this is a memory from this time, sort of thing. And then it's not until the second half that you sort of realize what the through line is between it all. So it's one of those movies that the longer it goes on, the more it sort of makes sense, and you sort of piece together what it all means, which is a very interesting way to sort of craft a film. But you're right. This is a very gorgeous, intimate, small film. I think the cinematography is great. They do a fantastic job of capturing both the island and the mainland, the lower mainland. As someone who grew up in that era, I'd love to sort of hear maybe your take on how that was portrayed.
I mean, if you grew up, I grew up on Salt Spring Island, which is right beside Vancouver Island, and let me tell you, this movie looked like the '90s for the first half. Right down to her older brother's haircut and oversized glasses that I may or may not have definitely worn and had. So, and the baggy shirts and shorts, and just like if you have existed in the Pacific Northwest, in particular, but like all the places they go, again, especially in that first half, like it really did feel like I can see myself in those memories. Like it made me remember things about my childhood, about visiting the beach and how like the beaches here are sometimes not so much sand but rock,
Hmm.
and just the wildlife and the sound of the ocean and the sort of. I think the cinematography does a really good job of capturing the sort of like even on a sunny day, there's a bit of a chill in the air near the sea here, um, and I think it's really evocative. I think I wrote a review of this one for Exclaim too, and I said something along the lines of how like it'll it'll pull out emotions that you thought forgotten and then examine them through moments of connection, of half remembered connection. That's what I said, um, and I think the first half in particular is exactly that. And I think
Yeah.
it's probably very specifically going to affect someone like me who grew up here, but I think it's also very universal. Like if you grew up anywhere, you could probably relate to this. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, if you're from the Pacific Northwest, you're going to be like, "Oh, I remember that." Just like it's very '90s on the island for sure. But
Nice.
then the second half is very mid 2010s in Vancouver too. So it's the whole thing is very again it's interesting because it's an immigrant story, but it's very some of it is very specifically Canadian, some of it is very universal to the experience of being Canadian and being an immigrant. Um, but it is also at its core this processing of memory and processing of like lost connection from the director, and I found it to be beautiful and devastating, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those films where the more personal the story is, the more universal its themes are.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And just also like I think most of us, I think maybe less now, I don't know, I haven't been a kid for a long time, but I feel like most of us knew a kid who had at least some of the issues that her older brother was going through, and like
Hmm.
mental health and behavioral issues before we really had maybe not the language to describe them, but certainly the awareness we have today, like 30 years later, of what they are and what they could mean, and perhaps how to help a kid like that. Like, I don't think the movie does a very good job of making the parents appear like they don't know what to do, but not indicting them for it. Just that, like
No, yeah.
at that time, um, it was just a thing where like you were expected to sort of get over it, right? Whereas today we have much more awareness of like mental and emotional health. Um, I can definitely attests to the fact that we just didn't have that level of awareness in the mid
Yeah.
90s. It's certainly not where I grew up, and probably not anywhere. So it's
Yeah.
for anyone who was like a 14, 15 in the mid 90s, like this will probably bring up some stuff for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I don't want to get into much more in depth of revealing things because this is a great little film. I will say my last thought on it is I saw this at TIFF, and it was I don't think it was the world premiere, but it was the North American premiere. And so the director and all the cast were there. And she talked about how this movie was a little bit tricky to cast because there isn't a lot of Hungarian Canadian actors, so finding the parents was really tricky. And then the guy that plays the brother, this was his first time ever acting. He had never acted before, and learning that was an absolute shock. Like there was literally like across the audience because like everyone was just like, this kid is incredible. Like he doesn't have a lot of dialogue. He isn't in a ton of the movie, but like his presence is felt. And the fact that she nailed the casting so well is just sort of a testament. And like he was just like so bashful because they asked him about that being his first acting experience, and he was just very bashful and gracious about like, oh, I lovely help. The people that play my parents, they were very helpful for me. Sophie was a great help, all this sort of stuff. But yeah, first performance.
That's I didn't know that, and that's incredible because he really is in a role that requires so much like body language and face acting. Like he doesn't have a ton of dialogue, but he's able to convey.
But also in a way that you can't read what's going on inside him too.
Yeah, he's able to convey like so little and so much at the same time. Like it's a legitimately incredible performance. I'm super glad. So this movie won 2 awards at the festival. It won the Horizon Award for emerging Canadian Director and the Arbutus Award for Best British Columbia Director, and I couldn't be happier with that result.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait to see what Sophie Rumvari does next, and basically all of this cast as well.
Yeah, and this is going to be an important film for us because all 3 of us are in the Cascadia Critics group, and this is going to be eligible for our Best Cascadian Film Award. So this is not going to be the last time we talk about this film.
No, and I can tell you right now that it's going to be one of 2 that I know I'm going to be like stumping for as like these are the ones this year. So I'm pretty excited for both of them.
Yeah. And then speaking of that award, I'm also going to be stumping for one called A Welcome Distraction, which is my last film that I'm going to talk about. So this is a movie directed by Brian Daniel Johnson, and the plot summary is very short. It's in the wake of a tragedy, a young man goes to great lengths to avoid confronting his family. This is also another movie that's a little bit tricky to describe without just sort of rehashing the plot, and even that, it's also kind of hard to describe. It's a drama, but it also has quite a few comedic moments where you're not sure if it's supposed to be funny or not, but then enough of these moments happen that you realize, no, there's supposed to be quite a bit of comedy in this movie. And so there's especially some very overt moments. But basically, there's this young man who his father has died, and as the title suggests, a welcome distraction. He's just sort of looking for something to get his mind off things. So his father has died. He's broken up with his girlfriend. He has decided to self-medicate himself with Adderall, which his drug dealer friend is not okay with because he should only be using Adderall to party, and that he does not approve of self-medication. Which has a hilarious scene when he admits that he's going to be using it because he just needs to focus on life, and his drug dealer friend freaks out on him. He goes, I can't do that. You're going to get addicted, and you're going to be going on opioids, and you're going to be doing all this, and you're going to be wanting more and more, and this is going to be my fault. And it's a great moment. But he ends up going on a hike and up to a Lighthouse Park, for those of you familiar with that, where him and his ex-girlfriend had etched their initials in a tree, and he's going to remove the carving in a tree. And while he's there, he meets a young woman named Mallory, who is very curious and interesting and sort of takes notice right away. And she sort of brings him into her friend group, which may or may not be sort of culty.
Whoa.
I
Yes.
I missed this one because again I was out of town, but like you can stop talking now. I'm sold. I'm
Yeah.
pretty well
Hey,
sold on
say
this
no
film.
more.
Yeah.
I mean, don't stop talking because we have a show to do, but also like sold.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very interesting one. Basically, we sort of never really get the full details of what this group is, other than the fact that the women of this group have a special connection with nature, and the men in the group help interpret their findings, and they publish newsletters about their findings, and that's sort of basically almost everything we learn about this group. They're quasi environmental, but we never really know what their cause is.
And it
um,
sounds like witches. Sounds like they're witches. Are they witches?
that's the thing. We don't. I'm not going to say anymore. I'll just say they don't really explain what's going on. And so he sort of throws himself fully into this group, and that is his welcome distraction to get over these things. And the deeper into it he gets, we're going, okay, at one point he should probably deal with his trauma a little bit.
Amazing.
Yeah. So this is much like it's shot very similarly to Blue Heron, where you've got this like lo-fi sort of grainy aesthetic, beautiful Vancouver scenic atmospheres. It is a present day contemporary film, so it does sort of its best to look very natural looking, and sort of oscillates between this serious drama of this young man sort of struggling to get through life with this sort of very absurd light comedy where you don't even realize it's supposed to be funny until afterwards, and you sort of get these like all of a sudden gut burst laughs where you're like, oh, okay, that was a very funny moment there, and now we're back to the trauma.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Just want to say, like, to echo something I said at the start, like, it really feels like the lineup of Canadian film this year was pretty spectacular. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've heard anyone say anything bad about any of the Canadian films that they've seen, and that is so heartening to me.
Yeah, so I totally recommend this one as well. I saw it at one of the screenings, and I realized afterwards that quite a few of the cast were in attendance. None of them got introduced on stage and things like that. I ran into someone I knew, and then he was with people that he knew, and I think one of the people in that group was one of the actors that was in the film. Because afterwards, I'm like, was he in the movie? He looked like he was in the movie, and he's like, I think so, but I don't know for sure. And then the lead actor I saw afterwards in the lobby at International Village, as well. But yeah, this is also going to be one that's going to be eligible for our best Cascadian film, and one that I am pushing for as well, because I know Blue Heron was the easy one. Everyone that's seen it is already raving about it in our group, and this is one that not enough people have seen. So I am pushing people to check this one out. It is a very easy 100-minute watch, less than 100-minute watch, 90 minutes. That people should definitely check out.
Based on your description, I cannot wait.
This feels very much like a Matthew movie as well.
And I love that you can recognize that. So I wonder if I can still speak to the press people about this, because it sounds like something I very much want to see.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Darren, I don't know how you'd fall on either of these movies. I'd like to think that you would like them, but you're a little bit sometimes harder to know exactly what is a Darren movie and what is not a Darren movie.
It's like there's ones that are very clearly a Darren movie, and there's ones that you're like, I don't know where he's going to fall in this. He's a wild card.
A little bit, yeah. And I feel like I learned this with Rachel when she was co-hosting with me. It's very apparent what isn't a Dakota movie and what is a Dakota movie, and I never noticed until she pointed it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's fair, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I can pick out a Darren movie. The lead actor will be wearing green makeup and can hit the high F.
Right.
That's just...
Yeah, that is very true. Which I'm sure you already have tickets for.
Just a few.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on today. It's always a pleasure to talk about our great local festival, and one that I feel like is starting to gain more prominence too. I don't know. Do you feel that way, Darren? Do you think
They were
it's
very
growing?
much talking about that at the closing night gala. They said they had, what was it, an increase in attendance this year. They had, what was it, 20% more films, and they're wanting to keep growing it over the next few years. That's their mission. So they're really trying to move away from this kind of smaller local film festival to this more prominent international one. And it definitely felt like that this year. So I hope they can continue that momentum going forward, because it's just going to make that an even better 2 weeks in Vancouver every year.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And like, I always have a great time. And like, it is nice where it is after TIFF. And so there's a lot of similar films that play. So I can play catch up with some of the stuff that I missed there. But like on the flip side, I like that it's doing its own thing too. I don't want it to be a carbon copy of TIFF.
Yeah.
No, me neither. As much as like, I've never been to TIFF in person, but as much as I would like to do that and then be like, oh, I don't need to see this at VIFF because I saw it at TIFF. Like I would much rather the festival have its own identity beyond catch up, like
Yeah.
catch the stuff up. My second choices from TIFF. I would much rather it be its own thing. And I hope they're able to achieve that. And I hope they don't lose the focus on Canadian film in the process. I know I'm sort of a broken record about this stuff, but I feel like now is a moment for an opportunity moment for Canadian film, and I feel like Vancouver and Whistler do a better job of it than a lot of the other international film festivals around the country, or at least Vancouver at least has the cachet and prominence to make a bigger show of it, and I hope that they do.
Yeah. Which again was another focus of the closing night festival. They were talking about Canadian film, local stories. So I don't think that's going anywhere, which is good to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I completely agree with that too. And especially since it really sort of feels like the BC film scene is growing in the last few years, especially since I've been out here. I feel like there's maybe just me paying attention to it more, but like it feels like it's getting stronger and stronger each passing year.
I mean, both those things can be true, and it would be wonderful if they both are.
Yeah, very true. Well, Darren, where can people find more of your work, and what have you got going on?
I have about 8 reviews on the go right now, so I'm a madman. You can find everything will be posted on my Instagram, Darren Movie Reviews, and also on moviescenecanada.com. What's coming up? We've got the new Colleen Hoover movie for those fans out there regretting you. We've got A House of Dynamite, Begonia, some more VIFF and TIFF titles. So lots of variety coming up in the next few weeks.
Nice. And Matthew, thank you as always for being my co-host. Where can people find more of your work, and what do you have going on?
First of all, always a pleasure, and I'm glad to be here. Second of all, the easiest way to find me is to just visit my personal portfolio website. I post links to all the work that I do from there, and you can find that at stretched.ca. And you'll find 3 recent reviews, the 2 that I talked about, plus a third from VIFF, and then several from TIFF, which I was able to cover remotely. So lots of great, I'm sorry I'm a broken record, lots of great Canadian titles to choose from. And hopefully I'll be, I just wrote Blue Moon, I watched Blue Moon and loved it, so I might write something about that today. And then you can hear me next week on this very show. So look forward to that.
Ooh, yes. I will make sure to link to all of your guys' socials in the show notes, along with links to the reviews that you guys mentioned and other great stuff. And so make sure you also check out ContraZoomPod.com, where we always have great reviews going up almost every day. Like, it's been crazy the amount of great stuff that I've been fortunate enough to publish by some incredible writers, including some work that I'm fond of that I did myself, covering VIFF. This has been a That Shelf podcast. Visit thatshelf.com for more great film discourse. Follow the show on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at ContraZoomPod. What did you see during VIFF? Leave a comment on Spotify or send us an email. Thank you to Eric and Kevin Smale for the theme music and to Stephanie Pryor for the logo design. If you like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, we do post all episodes there as well. And if you really like the show, consider tipping us on coffee. Thanks for checking us out.